Yeah. It is such an honor for me to be able to introduce a true statesman who has devoted his life serving God and all of humanity through his signature focus of demonstrating Christian love for other people. Once a Christian journalist, Dr. C.T. Vivian is well known for his work with Martin Luther King during the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Dr. Vivian was National Director of Affiliates and Strategist for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference organization. In addition to his work in Birmingham, Alabama, that helped to win the Civil Rights Bill, and his work in Selma, Alabama, on the Voters' Rights Bill, he was deeply involved in other movements such as Nashville, Tennessee, Dansville, Virginia, St. Augustine, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. Dr. Vivian led the first nonviolent direct action movement in 1947, which opened restaurants in Peoria, Illinois, for all people. Dr. Vivian is featured throughout the PBS acclaimed documentary, Eyes on the Prize. PBS later produced a full-length presentation, The Healing Ministry of the Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian. He also is featured as both an activist and an analyst in the series The People's Century and in Tom Brokaw's documentary, King. After leaving Dr. King's executive staff, Dr. Vivian trained ministers and developed the urban curriculum for seminaries throughout the nation at the Union Training Center in Chicago, Illinois. He returned to the realm of seminary education as Dean of Divinity at Shaw University Seminary. There he originated and acquired funding for an original national level program, the basis of his doctoral work, Seminaries Without Walls. Dr. Vivian also is the founder of Basic Diversity Incorporated. Basic is a full-service diversity consultation organization that has been operating nationally for 39 years. Basic helps organizations leverage the benefits and minimize the challenges created by a diverse workforce by creating environments where people can effectively collaborate across cultural differences. Basic's clients include some of the most recognized brands on the planet. They are best known for the Race Awareness Workshop, which has been evaluated as one of the most effective race relations programs in America. In 2008, he founded the C.T. Vivian Leadership Institute to create a model leadership culture for the purpose of training and educating the new generation of grassroots leaders inspired to mobilize a constituency. The Institute is based out of Atlanta, Georgia. More recently, he received an honorary doctorate from Morehouse College. He served as the national president of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference and currently serves as dean of the Urban Institute at the Interdenominational Theological Center in Atlanta, Georgia. Some of his many notable accomplishments include providing counsel to 5 U.S. presidents, advising foreign heads of state, and addressing the United Nations. He addressed the World Baptist Alliance as a keynote speaker while sharing the platform with Jimmy Carter. serving as a director of what Martin Luther King called the best nonviolence movement in the nation. Being highlighted in 1 year alone in 3 books, 2 of them by Pulitzer Prize winners and 1 by a U.S. congressman. In 2013, President Obama awarded Dr. Vivian the Presidential Medal of Freedom. We are indeed honored to have Dr. C.T. Vivian as our guest speaker this evening. Let's welcome him to Ashland.
Thank you, my brother. Thank you.
Real honor.
This is all right. Please. Is that, when you walk in and you see the house filled, then it's frightening. Is it, just to think about Martin King is a privilege. Just to think that there was one guy that solved a problem for a whole race of people within a so-called democratic country, and at the same time freed more people than any other person that has been here. Think about that. Is that Martin freed not only black people, he freed even those who hated him. That he went out of his way to make certain he did. It wasn't an accident, right? Is that he brought all of us a method and a means whereby that we could solve social problems without violence. Can we even think how tremendous that is? A means and a method of solving social problems without violence. In fact, that would be the beginning of solving the basic problem within our culture. Most of what goes wrong here goes back to violence, right? Trying to cure it with violence only makes it worse. How do we in fact overcome that? How did we stop a nation from destroying us when we had been here, done everything we could for this nation, right? Went to war for it, died for it. Can you think of anything more important than these kinds of things happening and changing the very face and thought of the nation? Because if you ask the average American, what about black people? It would be a negative. We turned around and produced the only man that has been the non-president to be on the American Mall. And by the way, it's the highest statue there. Is that when you really think what it means for the people at the bottom to become the most prized people in the world. Am I wrong? I didn't think so. Or I wouldn't ask you. But Martin did it. Now, you may think, well, how did he do it? Right? With faith. That really tops it. Because he really believed in a faith that was great for this culture, but which this culture had never lived up to. Is that a Christian? You're supposed to be loving everybody, right? At least part of them, right? But what happened is that they didn't love it enough or care enough to even let other Christians into their building if they were black, or even thought of as being black, right? Can't have them. Why? Because our faith was not deep enough to let two people marry each other, though they loved each other, if one of them wasn't the right color. We needed some help, didn't we? You see, now when you think about what all of that means, is that Martin was reforming the nation on every count. Without Martin, we still wouldn't be directed toward democracy, as well as faith. We wouldn't prove that we believed in God. It's one of those things to say you're a Christian, and you can't even love other Christians. And when love is the center of the faith. There's only three really important words around, right? And that is justice, truth, and love. And the greatest of these, I know it would be in this room. Right. See, and the man that did it couldn't even be accepted fully in the land of the free and the home of the brave. But it wasn't brave enough to accept a man that tried to save it. The more we think about Martin, the more complex it really becomes. But what first he did for me was to free me from people that couldn't even tell me why they hated me. That's the big one for me, is that, in fact, I have a way in workshops of asking, well, I have a few of them this large, but in a workshop, we have about 30, 40 people. And I asked them, I said, and most of them are white, because that's where the problem is. See what I mean? Is that, see, really, truthfully, we might as well stop there for a moment. The real problem is that white people have to save white people. And you hardly can tell another white man he's a racist without giggling and without laughing and without, bending over in one form or the other, right? Did you know you're a racist? That's just like saying you're a murderer, right? And you kill people daily in one form or the other by just walking around with hate in your heart. You say, oh, I don't hate him. I don't hate black people. Well, what is it then, right? Treat your wife like you treat us, and you find out it's not love, all right? Is that how will we deal with this? And this is the thing that Martin King took on. He started when he was in college. He was in seminary, really, he made it so fast. He was at college age. He was just graduating from seminary. He'd already done all the other work, right? Martin was about saving this nation morally and spiritually, and he brought us a new strategy upon which we could save ourselves and the nation. Nonviolent direct action. He led a people's movement. It was so important. And in addition, it empowered passive bystanders to energetically join the freedom course. Together, they forced America to admit that it was sick. Right? Now, when you think about it, that it was a sick society. It was sick on racism, the central cancer in the body politic. Yet there was no major problem in the nation that could be solved until the government would deal seriously with racism. And the government, if you dealt seriously with racism, you would in fact lose your political standing. Well, we just saw it so when the film is going on, and the film was going on, and and Johnson says to him, I am not going to go down with anybody as low as you are. He's talking to another governor, right? And the governor didn't say nothing because he knows he shouldn't say anything anyway. We all knew him too well, right? But you know what? I knew him after the fact. And he had been shot. It was a black man that was taking care of him that made him really feel as though he had a chance to live, and to live with some decency. All right? And he invited 10 of us. We made a march on the Capitol and as when we came to, we marched on Wallace's doorstep, so to speak. He invited 10 of us up. And he invited 10 of his people in. And I happened to have the choice seat, right? And I could, right there where the table met, because he couldn't move around very well, met with his long desk, right? I sat right there at the corner, because I used to do my desk that way. And I knew that was the best place to sit. And I wanted to look him straight in the eye, right? Because I want to see if the man was lying or not. But you know what? We waited until after the little stuff was over, and we asked him, would you do it again? And he dropped his head, and he says, no, I wouldn't, because I want to go up there. We had converted him, you see. He wanted a new way of life, a new way to be looked at, a new way to be thought of. It's and it's the nature of nonviolence. And under the leadership of Martin King, the movement influenced the whole nation. Johnson, same basic thing. When he let them know, how long Johnson had really been waiting? He had been waiting since FDR. But he didn't know how to make it and still stay in political power, right? Because he knew the South was going to turn against him, right? And he couldn't be powerful without the Southern senators on his side. And so he told us, get this because it's missed by most in the film when they see the film, and most do, right? Is that, or you will if you haven't, right? Is that, he said, "Make me do it." Except he didn't say, make me do it. He said, "Look, fellas, you go out and get enough support that I can't say no to you." That's a long distance from, you see, is that he's a politician. We have to think of him as a politician. He knows how to say things as well as how to do things, right? And it made the difference in saving us all, very truthfully, right? And we have to see that as so important to all that we do and all that we think. The ultimate weakness in violence is that it keeps us spiraling down. It never really changes. It doesn't ever come up. It spirals us down, all right? Violence is violence. It has to be destroyed. The only way, as Martin points out, is love is the only thing that can change it, all right? Love is the only way that can change it. Is that if you can't love people, you can't change from violence. Is that you say, well, how far does that go? If it's violent at all, if it rejects your fellow man, you're already too violent to ever be what you think you want to be and what you say you are. And there's no sense of walking in the church unless you're going to repent. Well, I like all that stuff, but maybe you don't. So, is that the basis of all human rights today is the result, and in this country in particular, is the result of his movement. See, we weren't thinking about human rights as serious issue until Martin made it so. Remember what I'm talking about? Is that your preachers weren't talking about loving black people, loving one another, loving other Christians. We were mostly put down for no real reason at all. But we hang the big cross up there. But we can't take it to Jesus because we won't carry it. All right? Is that, let's think of it that way. It seemed to a watching nation that America had not and may never have had the character to live without white privilege. Is that if you really accepted other people fully, you would lose your white privilege. That's too much to lose. You can joke about it, but you can't lose it. But if you don't lose it, you really lose your Christianity. Where are we? It seems like that it becomes important to see Martin's movement was the beginning of the transformation of America. We've been at it for some time. It's not only the transformation of America, it's really the American dream. All right? It's really the American dream. Think of all the people that died in the Civil War. because it's important. Is that how do we redeem ourselves? I'm not the preacher, but I know where I am, all right? And I know you understand it, right? See, Martin King became America's greatest social strategist. He took the Bible on one hand, and he took the Constitution on the other hand, and said, who are you, America? What do you really believe, America? What kind of persons are you going to be? What kind of children are you going to raise? What are you, America? Is that that's what it was. The presence of Martin King was taking the Constitution and the Bible and saying, what do you believe? It's the mirror to everything we say we are, and we know it's all that we could really be, all right? How do you do that? How do you make that real? The South never really obeyed the law on any issue. Brown versus the board. Oh, that was supposed to be the high point of everything, right? But they didn't obey it. Kansas obeyed it, but the rest of the South didn't obey it, right? Why didn't they? And we got still a good deal of it going on right now. Education is not the same for anybody in America, really, right? Either you got it too good or you got it too bad. Think about it. Where's the money really spent? How is that done? Well, one place you can got enough money, you just move your house. Just think of all of the problems we go to dodge what we can't even figure. I say to you, what have black people ever done to white people to make them so prejudiced? What did we ever do to you? That was, I do it in workshops, and what happens, white people in the room come up with about 3 things, and they all happened when they were kids. Is that when a fella tells you, well, I don't like all you millions of black people, they of course don't use those words, but because I don't like you because when I was 9 years old, this black boy, he beat me up. Is that such littleness and such cheapness, and we go along with it rather than to defeat it. When we think about it there, it just makes all of us. And I'm just turning pages now because I don't want to go through all of this, right? All right. It was is that listen to Martin when he really gets deep. He says it was the misinterpretation that caused, and I'm reading Martin now. I don't know this one. I didn't take courses in philosophy and theology. They don't give you this good of stuff. Right? It was the misinterpretation that caused the philosophers, Nietzsche, to reject the Christian concept of love. It was the same misrepresentation that induced Christian theologians to reject Nietzsche's philosophy of the will to power in the name of the Christian concept of love. Martin was able to explain this by saying what is needed is a realization that power without love is reckless and abusive, and that love without power is sentimental and anemic. That's good stuff, isn't it? Is that power, it says, love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power at its best is love implementing the demands of justice. Well, that's good stuff. Now, that's stuff I like to read, right? Is that Martin was like that. Martin King was the prophet of our age, right? The real saving force that could take us over if we could ever have white America tell other white Americans when they're a racist without joking about it. I always say that because that's what hurts. You know, I'm concerned about all of the problems that go with this. All the problems that go with this. Ask questions. I like Q&A. See, it's easy, though, to read and then duck out the back door, but I would rather us really ask questions that's been on your mind. It's been 50 years. You know, it's over a half century we have presently been dealing with this stuff. Over a half century. Of course, it comes down to just place, do you love people or don't you? But over a half century, and we got churches on every other corner. Something's wrong with all of that, right? And we have to be in a mindset of being able to take it on. Any questions? My brother.
Everything that you faced, everything that you witnessed in your years of doing nonviolence direct action, what was it that caused you to keep working instead of throwing your hands up, quitting, saying, I can't do this anymore?
I got 2 or 3 answers to that. And one of them is a half-truth. And that is because I knew really that there's no other answer. You see, you've got to answer it, but there's no other answer. You've got to love people, right? You have got to care. You cannot pull away from it. And you've got to learn to do it. That's what Jesus was about, all right? And being a Christian, I know full well that I don't know all the answers, but I tell you what, love never fails. Yes. And it works, and it will solve every problem any of us have and the nation have. But the nation is not certain it wants to love folk. But whether they want to or not, you got to come by it. Yeah, you got to come by love. Is that it may be difficult, and some people would say, if you don't, you're going to hell. I wouldn't say that. Is that because? But the point being is, we've got to do it to be our best selves, right? And the issue is, do you want to be your best self? Or do you want to just hang around giggling at guys who you know are half out of their mind anyway? See, is that, do you see what I mean? That's what it's all about, right? Is that there's no other way to cure it, right? Because I don't hate anyone. I don't really dislike anyone. That sounds like a lie, doesn't it? Right? But the truth is, that's right. Is that? But I had to learn to do it. It didn't just come. You have to learn to do it. But when you know what it can do, you then can do it. All right? See, and that's the goodie. That's the goodie in it all, right? Is that we can do it. Is that we have got to end racism. That's all there is to it. This is not a black problem. We just suffer from the fact that it's a white problem. Just that real. All right? And those of you who really understand what I mean must, in fact, make certain of yourself and go out and take on some folk, right? Because we've got to do it, right? Because it's the only thing that works. See what I mean? Is that if I could do it any other way, I'd probably do it too. But the point is, I don't know any other way to do it, right? But you see, is that when you stand in a jail, and a guy's, you turn your head and you turn back around, and the guy's got a 45 on you, and you relax. Tell him, go on. Because you know you're right. Right? And he knows you're right, even though he was born in the Deep South. He can't find another job but to be in a prison farm in Mississippi. You know, that's not too good. And you can't feed many kids on that, and you can't buy your wife this or that. The point being is that when you look at him, you know that he needs something. You see? The point being is, we've got to save that guy. Right? Is that not simply because he's in a prison, but because he's helpless and does not know what to do. Right? And this is what Martin was doing when we were in the movement. Right? And I tell you what, is that I don't want to call their names, so I won't do that. But there are some black names, you know, that have had to go through the same change. But you see, they at least knew why. Right? Is that those guys don't even know why. All right? We at least have a reason, but it's an unreasonable reason. You see what I mean? It doesn't get us anywhere, black or white. Huh? Is that so? Might as well drop it. It's dead stuff, right? It just hangs on you. Wake up and look in the mirror and say, "Really, is that me? Am I really that kind of guy?" How do we do it? There's no other way, right? Try it. I mean, you know, you do. I mean, you're not here because you don't know it. Is there another way? How can we get rid of it without having to depend upon the people that do it to us? You know, name anything that black people have not done as a group, have not done in this nation to be accepted. See, we begged to go to war. We really did. That sounds like nonsense, but it's true, right? Is that because we suffer from your sickness, right? And those of you who are not need to be telling other white people that we got to end this. And I got to be telling those that are disgusted, mad, know they've been used, know their parents have been used, know they can't get as good a job as they need to have, right? I got to be telling them that they're supposed to love you. It's tremendously important for all of us. Well, another question? I'll spend too long on that one. Oh, that's all right, isn't it, bro? Okay, I just want to be certain, Doc. Okay. Oh, pardon me, bro. I didn't see you. All right.
In your own personal endeavors, how did you deal with so-called Christians that were racist?
Well, the point is not to call them Christians. See, one of the real problems with the church, we're so concerned about numbers, right? That we can't tell a guy that we can't deal with you because you're not a Christian. Here you are wanting to act like you're a Christian, and you don't love nobody. And you certainly can't love people that are different from you, and that you want to make it on this white thing of I'm superior because I'm white. Can't make it on that, right? And anyway, and neither can any of us. But you see what I mean? Is that that's when you talk to them about, are you going to, let's get rid of this, right? Another Martin Luther King Day passes, right? And we will have ended up not being any better off than we were, right? Got ended. Here's a guy that died for us. You know what? The thing about dying for somebody is that you can't get it off your mind. Most of us don't rush to Jesus. We back into the arms of Christ because we are just backing up, right? Because we're trying to get out of it all, but we can't, right? That's the kind of real problem, right? Is that we can't. Anyway.
I wanted to talk more about, you mentioned white privilege.
Yeah.
People feeling superior simply because they're white. Help us with that a little bit to understand.
And you must think about it because most white people don't realize that they probably don't have the courage to live in America without white privilege, right? Because you keep thinking you're automatically better than, right? For instance, all the churches are open. Very few white people go to a black church, but you expect black people to come to a white church. See what I mean? Is that they expect it? Well, most do, all right? Most expect us to come running to you. All right? See, really think about it. You don't see yourself going to a black church, really. But when you think about the churches coming together, you think somehow we're supposed to go to you, right? And because after all, you know what Africans are like, because we send missionaries there. You know what that's like, because we've already robbed Africa of its wealth and cheated them out of everything we could. Who did that? Black people didn't do it. White people did it, right? Is that so that only heightens our guilt. But it's a part of you're supposed to. And it only goes to show how fixated you really are on who is good and who's not. And it's stereotypes that you use, right? Well, that's so much for that one. Let's, I think, my brother.
A number of us probably haven't seen the film Selma, and some of us are organizing a group to go on Sunday. But you were there, and I wonder if you might share with us the kinds of things you might want people to think about or know about as we think about this film. Those of us who have seen it, it'd be great to hear you share anything about that.
Is that you're going to love the film, but you're going to be disappointed. Now, what do I mean by that? Is that the film is worth seeing if you want to transfer, since you weren't here, during the movement, right? Is that you can get the feel of it, and by watching this film, without doubt, you can get the feel of it, right? However, things aren't put in line as they happen, and my children are upset because they think I did all the best things, and here they take my parts and they misuse them. All right. And so what I have to do is tell them, look, kids, is that this isn't made to be the truth on a little teeny weeny beeny bit, right? So that everything is supposed to be like it was, and we were the winners, right? Because this is not what that's about. It's about, do you understand what it's like to be the hated, the put down, the left out, the not thought of, that a policeman can beat you and you not supposed to do anything, right? Now, in fact, I'd never let him get by, Doc. I just didn't let him get by. I mean, if I'm thinking about, I had Sheriff Clark in front of all these people, right? And he was trying to get by. He knocked me down, and I got up and kept blaming him, right? He didn't know what to do because he had always beat black people, right? So what you see him doing is just going through the crowd beating people is what you see in the film, right? That didn't happen. But the point being is, it did in another way, all right? They have the jailhouse looking like it's as big as Selma. And the point being is that what the movie is really saying is that government, but that power in the hands of the wrong people is destructive to life, and they will do anything if with their badge on. Right? And you can't even say anything really back. Right? And they can actually kill you with the badge on, and no 12 white people are going to put them in jail. So you can be a murderer if you want to be, and that's all right as long as you kill black folk. And that's what it's really about, right? Is that it shows the misuse of power. You see what I mean? Is that so when you look at the film, you got to think of it as an hour and a half. 90 minutes is generally what they are, right? I didn't really ask Oprah on this one, right? You know what I mean? I think she probably cheated 5 or 10 minutes. If you pay for it, you can cheat it, right? You can go a little longer, right? I'm glad she's got enough money to do it, though. Is that she really has, though. She uses her money so well. And she invited us about 250 of us, somewhere around 250 and 300 of us. And at her place, one of her places, right? But she invited us there to sing Christian songs. And she loves, she shouts a little, That's right, Doc. That's me too. Shout a little, sister. Because she knows what it's about. To be saved, to be loved, to not be loved. She knows what it's like. But she wants to help people. She just doesn't go around throwing out money. You know what I mean? But she goes out planning with people to do things that make a difference in the lives, the maximum number of people. Is that that's what Oprah is really like. That's what, and by the way, she had about 50 chefs out there. I think I miscount, but we had everything that we really want. We sang for about 3 hours, right? The top gospel people in the country, and in the crowd was a half a dozen of them who they handed the mic to, and they fell right in with it, right? And it's just great stuff when you're with folk that are doing good. Oh, pardon me, sis. Thank you, Don.
Okay, sorry. That's fine. Dr. Vivian, I hear you as you're speaking. I've heard you say a lot. I know in the English language, we use you for saying one. One would do this, one would do that. But I hear you saying things like you have your stereotypes, you have this hatred. You do this, you do that.
Well,
and as a very obviously white person, it kind of makes me a little sad because I know people in my parents' generation and my generation, the furthest things from our minds are racism, and as a daughter of 2 moms, equality and peace and justice for everyone is a huge priority for me.
That's true, sis. And I want you to be the ones that go out and change the rest of them, right? Is that now that's using my excuse to help me get out of that problem, right? But the fact is that that's true. There are so many white people. Do you know when I knew that the new generation had a real movement going on? When I saw black and white youth in particular, but a number of adults, lie down together, put their hands up, right? And they, in the grass, just lying there together, blocking traffic, lying there together, making certain it's understood that they are against police disorder and put down and murder, right? Is that you have to be more specific today than you used to be. I mean, I have to be more specific today than I used to be, right? All right? Because so many people, like, you didn't have to be here tonight, right? School basically turned out. But in a school like this, who really puts their mark on those who are Christians in a very special way, right? I expect more than I would if I were in a normal situation, all right? But basically, it's the more how passive are you and how passive are you not, all right? Is that, will you do things to change your brother and your sister, right? Is that, and will you catch the questions that they ask you so well that you can answer to other people as well as the one that you just talked to? See, all this is terribly important stuff because how are you going to live your life for the rest of it? Are you really going to say, yeah, I know that's right, but I don't have to talk to it? Yes, you do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm really trying for. But thank you, sis. Oh.
You mentioned learning to love people. I don't usually think of that as a learning process. Would you recount a little bit how you learned to love?
Yeah. I grew up with white kids on my, because I was I didn't have a choice. But hey, I found out everybody's all right. Yeah. Now, how I really learned though was for adults. I speak to any of them 3 times. Ended up everybody in my town liked me. It was a small town, but that's how, right? Is that I wanted them to love me. I wanted to love them. I wanted them to care for me. I wanted me to care for them, right? Good point is that, and if you let people know that you think they're all right, eventually they'll come. I had to do it 3 times. It was a method with me, right? I would, a guy be walking by. I remember the first one. Guy walked head with a cigar, and it was blowing back in my face. And I loved the smell of it, I wasn't, I won't put up with that. I like that Cuban kind of cigar smell, right? And and then when I passed him, I smiled at him and etc. And first time he looked at me as though, little brat, what you do, and black one too. But then I learned if you did it 3 times, by the time you did it 3 times, the guy accepted you. All right, and you of course wanted to accept him, right? And it worked. All right, it worked. And by the way, I like 25 votes to get every vote in my school for president, right? And I'm one of only about 10 black people in the school, right? Now the point being is, that's what saved me. That's what saved me. I found out that if you try to love people, they will love you. And they don't really hate you. They've just been told a lot of stuff. And what people like you are. And then then they learn better, they act better. It's not hard to change people unless they have never been anywhere good and they got a reason to hate everybody because everybody hates them, right? All right. So then you got an opportunity to save them. And they may cuss you out or something. And so what? Right? You're not losing nothing, right? And you really aren't. All right. But does that sound right to you, Doc?
That actually sounds, that's what comes after you've learned, it seems to me, love.
Well, see.
Your process
Yeah.
is a response to love. Now,
No, it's a response to, remember, I had to ask him 3 times.
Something innate or something in the environment or something that happened to you that says, this is how I'm going to behave.
Did you ever hear of, watch my language, because I can't think of the real word I want, but of saving power? Did you ever think of really wanting to save somebody's soul? Did you, if you do, it's easy, right? Is that, did God ever do anything good for you? And without a reason, right? Is that then you owe the Lord something. And I know I did, right? But it's all very good though, huh? And I don't go around, I don't go around saying, would you love me? The point being, you just treat everybody right, even when they don't think so. I remember I was just telling a group, I remembered this was a high Y group. It was a Y group in what town? Fort Lauderdale, right? It was, we just left Fort Lauderdale a couple of days ago. And this fellow was talking about what it really, he wasn't talking about what it meant to care as much as is that I saw the movie, not this one, saw another thing it was in, right? And he said, well, let's put it this way, shorten it. He spent a lot of money to do good. When an American spends a lot of money to do good, is that, he cares. And he did. You see what I mean? Yeah, but I think you got another question, Doc. Okay. Oh, pardon me, Doc. Oh, there you are.
I was really struck by your comments about love with power. And at Ashland, we're part of an absolutely extraordinary teaching community. Every day I wake up and feel like it's a gift to teach here. And I know so many of us feel that when we stand in front of a classroom, that's love with power. We're willing to pour our hearts and our compassion and our time into our incredible students. And those of us who are teaching about race, from Langston Hughes to Richard Wright to Black Lives Matter, what do you do? What's your recommendation in terms of loving with power and staying with that when you deal with apathy, when you see apathy in the eyes of those students you love, when you see defensiveness, when you talk about white privilege in the classroom? Give us some wisdom and some encouragement in terms of encountering that situation where you love so much but you don't feel like you have enough power for that day.
I think really for me is that I don't try to change everybody all the time, but I do find that I spend more time at it than I not spend time with it. See what I mean? In other words, I don't expect any of us to be perfect You're paid to teach, right? In the process, though, you can save more people than most of us, right? Because most of us don't have that many people around us. We go to work and come home, basically, all right? Sister, the fact you want to, and we talked earlier, right? And the fact that you want to, the fact that you are a good teacher, the fact that you've given your life to teaching, is that it says so much right off the bat, all right? Just, and you'll find a way, because you're not going to be defeated by that. Oh, pardon me, Doc.
Thank you for coming, sir.
Thanks.
If I may comment on the question earlier about the process of learning to love, I believe, I am a Christian. I believe that starts with Christ entering the heart and changing the heart and changing the soul. That's how that process begins, is when you realize that how much God loves everyone by sending his son, Christ, to die for us.
With you, Doc.
And so I think once that changes, that heart change, that's when you learn to love.
But the point is, you can't just do it, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, it don't just happen because you sit by your bedside. You know? It looks like the picture book, but it's not that easy. And but when it happens to you, you know it, right? Yes. When you keep trying and thinking about it, and doing it, and want to satisfy Jesus finally, right? And that just knowing he's right. I really don't care too much for most of the theological stuff. Oh, I like to talk like I know it. But it's not the theology that wins me, right? It is, in fact, knowing that God loves me, and that God loves everybody else, and that it's right. Truthfully, the most important thing to me is it right. Is it decent? Is it loving? Is it caring? Right? That's the stuff that really moves me. Really, right? Is it what kind of? I want to ask myself, what kind of guy are you anyway, Doc? You have somebody to just come and go through a lot of stuff with you? No, I'm big enough to and I've been around long enough, especially been around long enough to really just do right for the sake of right. See, you see what I mean? Yes, but sir. Keep going. Now you got questions, Doc.
My question was, you talked a lot about the church and black church or white church.
Yeah.
We know that over 90% of Americans say that they are Christians, and a lot of them sort of go to church every Sunday, but we don't really see the results of that necessarily. And I guess my question is, do you think could you talk about first America itself and the principles of the Declaration of Independence?
Well, I don't mind that, but let's get this other one right. Is the point being is that the Christian church lets too many people in without questioning, right? You just and we, not you, we just say, oh, we're so happy you're here, and we just love you so, and we all of that, and you never ask them to take a course in anti-hate, So as a result, right, is that they think that they're all right. So I'll just, I'm a member. They accepted me. So I'll be as bad as I want to be. That's basically that's what we do. I don't care black or white. That's what we do. I mean, we don't really talk seriously to them about you can't join this church until you have passed some sense that you are truly a Christian, right? Or I remember when I first read a guy who did that, right? He's got a church in Washington, D.C. now. But there's Life magazine, about 70 years ago. And he'd just come out of World War II, all right? So you couldn't join his church for the first year. The first year, you could be there every Sunday, and you could take lessons, right? But you were going to understand what it was like to be a Christian before they let you be a member, right? And I like that. If I can remember it for 70-some years, that's pretty good. I went to his church first time I was in Washington, I went to his church to find out what this is like.
One last question.
Good evening, Dr. Vivian. Thank you for your service.
Oh, thank you, Doc.
What you've done for this country, you fought battles as important as any general in any branch of the military. So thank you once again for your service.
Yeah, but where's my shield? Go on.
My question is two-part. First part, I would like to ask, with Dr. King being such a great speaker, he had a vast vocabulary and an ability to combine emotion with that vocabulary to get his message across. But we only really focus on the I Have a Dream speech. Is there another message or writing or something that you would recommend that really gets his message across?
In fact, a lot on tape.
Exactly.
If you ask for it, you'll really find it at record stores and stuff like that.
Okay.
If you really ask for it, right? Now, some of them will tell you, I don't carry nothing but jazz. And Martin never sang in jazz, right? But a number of them will order stuff for you.
Very nice.
All right, and it's just one of the things we're talking about with this film.
Yeah.
One of the reasons it's not as good as it could have been is because you have to pay enormously to the family. It's really not to the family. It's to the 3 kids.
Yeah.
But basically, one of them is the truth of the matter.
Excellent.
Right? He just, and they go back and forth. First, it's got to be 2 out of 3, right? And so what happens is they play with it until they got a 2 out of 3. And this time it's the 2 boys, right? When they had the other child, it threw it off so it could be 3 out of 5, right? But it's just that because the one just likes money.
Well,
That's just the truth, right?
The second part of my question is, in the last 30 to 40 years, we've seen everybody from Oprah Winfrey, Magic Johnson, even Barack Obama. It seems like we're making progress socially, economically. Where do you see America in the next 20 years? Will we still be fighting this fight?
Yeah,
20, 30, 40 years
that's
from
a good one, right? Oh yeah, is that we have come a long way. That's why the sister sitting there said, hey, don't put us all down, right? Because a whole gang of us want to change this mess as much as you do, right? Yes, and she says, well, I'm not for certain about that last part as much as you, but really, there's a lot of white people that want to change it all. Far more than there used to be. All right? My point being is we are making progress, or he never would have been elected. We didn't elect him. And you know when we got really interested? When Iowa went for him. And Iowa only has 3% black. I know, I did workshops there for 20 years, right? That's a marvelous thing. I mean, they called me right before the morning that the vote was going to go down. They called me and told me, this one belongs to you. And I said, well, I'll accept it. But my point being is it's time to go. Pardon me,
We want to thank Reverend Dr. C.T. Vivian for coming out. Give him another round of applause, please.
I want to thank you. Thanks. I'm afraid you'll walk out if you keep standing up.
On behalf of Ashland University, and so you remember us, we want to give you this this eagle.
Yeah. Looks like a hawk to me.
You did want to just let everybody know that I know he made reference to the movie Selma. We will be going to see that movie on January 25th between the hours of 1 p.m. and 3 p.m. I will have sign-up sheets here, so if you want to go, my office, the Office of Diversity, as well as the Center for Religious Life, will be paying for it. We can take up to about 60 people, so we want it to be a really big event that people come out to. We will be having a dialogue afterwards, so in the lower chapel, so please come out if you want to. Know you want to go, please sign up. Other than that, we appreciate everybody for coming out. Everybody have a safe trip home. Thank you. We got a box for you too.
Okay, yeah.